Hi friends, it's Brittany Valadez here for BravelyDaily.com. I am chatting with a friend and my professor at Biola University, Sean McDowell. Now you guys know him as a Christian apologist because he is, and he has just written a new book called Chasing Love, Sex, Love, and Relationships in a Confused Culture. Don't forget to buy his book, which I will put in the description box below. All right, if you guys like this video, please do me a huge favor. I mean huge. Subscribe. Yes, that button right there. Subscribe. Also, like this video, give it a thumbs up, and of course, follow me on social media. I'll just list all my social media accounts in the description box below. Okay, let's get started. The question everyone wants to know. How far is too far?
As you know, Brittany, you're not going to find a verse that answers this question. And the reason is because in biblical times, they had arranged marriages. Dating is a modern invention where we're even asking this kind of question. So there's no biblical passage like Nehemiah 4, but there's biblical principles that will help us out. And I would point to Philippians 4:8 that says, think about things that are worthy and just and beautiful and good and pure. In other words, our thinking is to be focused not on crude things, but on things that are good and right and pure. Now let's apply that to a relationship. And by the way, when we start to apply this, you realize the standard for everybody may or may not be exactly the same, depending on somebody's maturity, depending on their background. Like a 13-year-old kid versus somebody who's 23 versus 33, it might look very different for a range of reasons. Or if somebody has a background of just sexual abuse, there might be even harder steps for that person. So I think there's a reason why the Bible doesn't just give us a specific level. And even if the Bible did, everyone would go straight to that level and then find ways to justify, I haven't really gone over that level, and here's why I'm still with, like, it's just human nature. So I think the Bible gives us principles. So my question to a young person is, in a relationship, at what point, honestly, are you not thinking about that which is pure yourself and for the other person? Can you hold a hand and do that? Well, probably in 90+% of circumstances. Can you give the person a hug? Yeah, almost certainly. Of course, it maybe depend on the kind of hug. Can you give a kiss on a cheek? Certainly. Can you make out? Well, that seems to me you're starting to ask the questions that say, what am I thinking about? Am I pushing this person to an area where I'm not thinking about that was pure and right? And am I causing myself and this other person to be sexually aroused in a way that's not right in this relationship? And I think the point you made, Brittany, is, I think, so helpful because people will say, just don't have sex and you're fine. But then we don't define sex for them. And people think it's just male, female, traditional sex. But look, to be honest with you, you know this. They call it oral sex for a reason because it's sex. It's sexual activity. I mean, sexual activity is a range that often starts, it's meant to be a husband and a wife with a certain look, with a certain touch that climaxes at the end. And the further somebody goes down that process, the more your body is gearing up for it and it's harder to stop. That's why I think the better question is, rather than how far is too far, is how do I care for this person? How do I be wise? And how do I love them? And to be honest with you, one thing I say to students is, when I was in high school, the idea was somebody thought if they dated a girl, you're eventually going to get married and it doesn't matter. You will never see or hear of this person again. Well, that is false with the invention of something called Facebook and now social media. So you got to think practically. Every single person you interact with on any level can come back and reveal things maybe wrong that you did. So that's one thing to avoid. But second, amazingly, my dad dated a woman for, I think he said 3 or 4 years that he loved, but just when it was all said and done, it didn't seem right for the focus of his ministry. So they broke up. He met my mom and asked my mom to marry him. And she said, I need some time. She went back and talked to the girl that he dated for 4 years and said, how did Josh treat you? And thankfully, he treated her right. So in asking this question, number one, go to Philippians 4:8. But second, think about these choices you're making. This is somebody's future spouse, right? And this could come full circle in your life. So that's added incentive to err on the side of showing love and compassion. You will never look back in your life and say, you know what, I wish I'd gone a little further. But I meet endless people who say, I wish I'd not gone that far.
Now, growing up, my dad shared with me some wise words. He said, look, Brittany, the less you have to explain to your spouse, the better. From my own study on this topic, do you remember a Christian singer named Rebecca St. James?
She endorsed my first book. I know Rebecca St. James, yeah.
Yeah, well, she wrote this book called Wait for Me. And in the book, she mentioned boundaries. She mentioned a specific boundary that I think is practical and one that everyone should remember. When questioning how far is too far, just think of this. If I can cover it with a bathing suit, my hand shouldn't go there.
I love that quote from Rebecca St. James. I'm going to use that. That is such practical, good advice. Good stuff.
Now, while that boundary is, of course, specifically off limits until you're married, another boundary that I think that couples should take goes back to true love. What is true love? It's caring about the other person more than yourself. Well, what could be a trigger for one person may not necessarily be a trigger for the other person, and vice versa. For example, say you have a guy and a girl. Well, the girl making out maybe is no problem to her, no big deal. But maybe the guy knows that that is one of his struggles that leads him into thinking other things or wanting to do more things, either from past experience or just because he knows how he gets worked up. So it may be an issue for him. Now, again, when we mention true love, it's thinking about the other person. And you guys may not realize, well, yes, you're thinking about you're thinking about the guy in the situation. You're also thinking about his future wife one day, and they may or may not be you. You don't know that. But also not only his future wife, but his future kids. When you stop and think about it, it can affect generations to come. Now, when it comes to boundaries, yes, we want to make sure we don't cross certain boundaries, but why are we doing it? We're doing it because we want to honor the Lord, and the Lord has rules for us to protect us. Not because he doesn't want us to have fun or enjoy things. I mean, this is all going to come later. There's a time and a place for everything, and he knows when we honor God and we do things his way, it saves us from hurt, and it propels us to hopefully a happier future. Can you just tell us about your book in general? Who is it addressed to, and why you felt the need to write this type of book?
Chasing Love is for high school students. And one of the biggest reasons I wrote it is because I have 3 students who are Gen Zers, a son who is 16. I have a daughter who's 13, and we have virtually a son who lives with us who's 16. So I have 3 teens in my home that I care about deeply, and we have these kinds of conversations. I teach high school. I'm tuned in with this generation, and it's obvious that questions about sex and sexuality and marriage are just at the forefront of cultural conversation. And I think I looked at resources and books that are out there and didn't find any that I thought were deeply biblically rooted, relevant to the questions students were asking, but also interesting, full of stories and examples and, some scenarios with my wife and my kids that I think students could relate to. So, and the other thing is, interestingly enough, my dad led the first global sexual purity campaign in the 80s when I was growing up. And so I kind of grew up hearing this sexual purity message. And so when I started writing this book, I was reflecting back on what I was taught, what I'm thankful for, what maybe I saw differently, how the culture has changed. So personally, it was just a really cool process of reflecting back and saying, how can I help my kids the way my parents helped me?
Sean, thank you so much for spending a part of your day with me. I absolutely learned so much, and I'm sure our viewers did as well. All right, so where can they find you on social media and online in general?
Probably the simplest place, my website, seanmcdowell.org. I've got links to a YouTube channel that I have, which is a ton of fun. And that tends to be more apologetics, worldview, cultural issues. I'm also on Twitter. And my Twitter is not just like cat videos. I'm trying to put quotes and articles and resources and short videos that genuinely help people. Also on Instagram. And I do probably a video a day or so on TikTok, which is fun. And I've done some dance videos with my daughter and basketball videos with my son. But I really just answer. I got a ton of questions at a conference I was just at recently. And I told the students, I said, hey, if you follow me on TikTok, I'll start answering these questions, over the next couple of weeks. So I just answer tough questions, some about sex and marriage, many about does God exist, and tough verses in the Bible. So you're right. I'm just about everywhere on social media. I really enjoy it. It'd be fun. So any of your viewers, I'd love to engage and interact on social media.
Now, don't forget to buy Sean's book, Chasing Love. Sex, Love, and Relationships in a Confused Culture. I will list that in the description box below. Friends, wasn't Sean fantastic? He's great, really, really he is. And if you guys have any questions, follow him online. Also follow him on TikTok and YouTube. He gives a lot of quick answer videos there, both of those. He's really great. And you can just check his social media accounts in the description box below. Now again, if you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. You can also follow me on social media, which I will list all my social media accounts in the description box below. One more thing. Don't forget to watch all the videos in this series of my interview with Sean McDowell. Until next time, I'm Brittany Valadez for BravelyDaily.com. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.